If you're over 60, this one simple habit could silently raise your risk of a stroke, and it's hiding in your morning cup, not because of sugar, caffeine, or salt, but because of something you believe is protecting your heart. Tea. Yes, really, tea. Every day, millions of seniors drink it for calm, for focus, or for circulation. But in the brain, certain teas can quietly do the opposite, tightening blood vessels, raising pressure, and setting the stage for a stroke. As a brain doctor, I've seen it too many times. Patients who do everything right, eat healthy, walk daily, never smoke, yet still end up in my care after one ordinary evening drink. It's not the tea itself, but one small, overlooked detail that turns it from harmless to harmful. I'll explain what that is and why it happens in just a moment. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. Most people think of tea as harmless, a comfort, a ritual, a moment of peace. But inside the body, especially inside the brain, certain teas can act very differently than most imagine. What feels like relaxation can sometimes be a mild form of stimulation, and what seems soothing for the heart can quietly send your blood vessels into overdrive. I know that sounds hard to believe, but as a brain doctor, I've seen the pattern again and again. A patient comes in with dizziness, blurred vision, or a sudden spike in blood pressure, and when we trace it back, the common link is their daily cup of healthy tea. To understand why, we need to look at what happens inside your blood vessels. Think of your arteries like flexible straws that expand and contract all day long. They respond to everything: your breathing, your emotions, your hydration, and especially what you drink. When you sip certain teas, you're not just hydrating your body, you're feeding it active compounds that change how your blood vessels behave. Some of these compounds, like caffeine, theophylline, or catechins, are vasoactive. That means they can tighten or overstimulate the vessel walls. In a young, healthy body, that small constriction isn't dangerous. But in an older adult, where arteries are already stiff and fragile, that tightening can raise blood pressure within minutes, sometimes high enough to trigger a clot or a small vessel rupture in the brain. I'll give you an example. A patient named Mrs. Wilson, 79, came to my office complaining of lightheadedness every morning. She didn't smoke, didn't drink alcohol, and her diet was balanced. She was even proud of how disciplined she was. "I only drink green tea," she told me. "It keeps my heart strong." But when we monitored her blood pressure throughout the day, we saw sharp fluctuations, rising shortly after her morning tea and dipping several hours later. Her medication, a low-dose beta blocker, was fighting to keep her pressure stable, while the compounds in her tea were pushing it higher. The result was an internal tug of war. Her heart raced, her vessels constricted, her blood flow to the brain became unpredictable. That's why she felt dizzy every morning. Her brain wasn't getting consistent oxygen. This effect can happen with many common teas, not just black or green tea, but certain herbal varieties too. Ingredients like licorice root, ginseng, or guarana can stimulate your adrenal system, making your heart beat faster and your vessels narrower. Some teas contain high levels of tannins, which can bind to minerals and interfere with medications that regulate blood pressure. Others, especially detox or energy teas, combine multiple stimulants together. For a younger person, that might only cause a brief rush. For someone over 60, with thinner artery walls and slower kidney function, it can be the perfect setup for a pressure spike or clot formation. And here's what most people don't realize. Even mild dehydration makes the problem worse. Tea acts as a mild diuretic, meaning it causes your body to lose water. When your body is dehydrated, your blood becomes slightly thicker, your heart works harder to pump it, and your vessels react by tightening to maintain pressure. Now, add a stimulant compound on top of that, and your body goes into defense mode. It constricts harder. Your pressure jumps. The result is what doctors call transient hypertension, a short-term surge that might not show up in a regular checkup, but can silently weaken delicate brain vessels over time. I remember another patient, Mr. Douglas, who drank strong black tea every evening before bed. He said it helped him unwind. But every morning, his blood pressure readings were high, even though he took medication at night. What he didn't know was that tea's stimulating compounds can linger in the bloodstream for hours. So while he slept, his arteries were still under tension. Over weeks and months, that subtle stress built up until one morning, he woke up unable to move his right arm. The stroke wasn't caused by age or diet alone. It was caused by long-term vascular overstimulation from something he thought was harmless. And here's the part that surprises most of my patients. The danger isn't just in how strong the tea is, it's in when and how you drink it. Certain teas cause the biggest reaction when consumed on an empty stomach or alongside medication. The interaction changes how your body absorbs both the tea's compounds and the drugs in your system. That means what's safe in the morning might not be safe at night, and what's fine in one person could be risky in another. There's one particular ingredient that plays the biggest role in this reaction, one found not just in black and green tea, but in dozens of herbal wellness blends on store shelves. It's often praised for boosting circulation, yet in the wrong dose or timing, it does the opposite, tightening vessels and trapping pressure inside the brain. Most people have never even heard of it, though it's hiding in plain sight. I'll reveal what it is and how to spot it on your tea label in the next chapter. For many older adults, the evening cup of tea is sacred. It's a quiet ritual before bed, something that signals comfort, calm, and routine. The soft steam rising from the cup, the gentle aroma, the warmth between the hands. It feels like peace. But inside the body, something very different may be happening. As a brain doctor, I've seen this simple nightly habit quietly disrupt circulation, dehydrate the body, and raise the risk of a morning stroke, all while you sleep. Most teas, especially black, green, and even some herbal varieties, act as mild diuretics. That means they make you lose more water through urine. To many, that sounds harmless, maybe even beneficial, but at night, when your body is meant to rest and repair, this effect can set off a chain reaction that silently stresses your heart and brain. You drink your tea, you feel relaxed, you drift off. But over the next few hours, your kidneys are hard at work, pulling fluid out of your bloodstream. By the time you wake up, you're mildly dehydrated, your blood is thicker, and your arteries are stiffer than they were the night before. For an older brain, that's a dangerous combination. Let me explain why. Your brain depends on steady, smooth blood flow. During the night, your blood pressure naturally dips, a healthy process that allows your blood vessels to rest. But if you're dehydrated, the blood becomes more concentrated and your heart has to push harder to keep circulation moving. The vessels tighten in response, which cancels out that natural nighttime dip. Instead of resting, your cardiovascular system stays on alert. When morning comes, pressure surges as soon as you stand up. That's why so many strokes and heart attacks happen within the first few hours after waking. One of my patients, Mr. Albert, 81, had this exact problem. Every morning, he woke up dizzy and weak. His wife thought it was low blood sugar. But when we monitored his blood pressure overnight, the real cause became clear. His pressure wasn't dropping as it should. It was climbing, peaking between 4 and 6 a.m. The culprit, a cup of strong green tea before bed. He'd started the routine years earlier because he'd read that green tea improves circulation. Ironically, it was doing the opposite. The mild caffeine, combined with dehydration, was pushing his heart to work overtime in the middle of the night. Once he switched to a caffeine-free herbal tea and drank more water before bed, his dizzy spells stopped completely. Even caffeine-free teas can have this effect. Herbal blends that contain natural diuretics, like dandelion, hibiscus, or lemongrass, increase fluid loss too. Seniors often don't feel thirst as strongly as younger adults, so they go to bed already slightly dehydrated. Add a diuretic tea on top, and by morning the body is running low on fluid. The blood thickens, the vessels constrict, and oxygen delivery to the brain becomes sluggish. You might not feel it as pain or pressure, just as lightheadedness when you stand up or that heavy, foggy feeling that lingers after waking. There's another factor few people think about: medication timing. Many seniors take blood pressure or heart pills at night. When dehydration sets in from tea, those medications can work too strongly, causing sudden dips in circulation at the wrong time. The body tries to compensate by tightening arteries again, creating pressure swings that are unpredictable and stressful for the brain. Over time, that instability weakens vessel walls and increases the risk of small clots or leaks, the kind that cause silent mini-strokes long before a major one occurs. And perhaps the most misleading part is that these nighttime teas are marketed as sleep support or heart calming. I've reviewed countless tea labels that include words like detox, relax, or restore. But when you look closely, you'll find ingredients that deplete electrolytes and draw water from your bloodstream while you rest. So while you think you're soothing your body, you're actually setting up your brain for a morning surge, a hidden pressure spike that can catch you completely off guard. Mrs. Elaine, a 77-year-old retired nurse, once told me she never went to bed without her sleepy tea. She said it was her way of winding down after the news, but each morning she'd wake up with a pounding headache and blurry vision. After keeping a hydration journal for a week, we found that she was drinking almost no plain water, only tea. Her body was in a constant state of mild dehydration. Once she reduced her tea intake after 5 p.m. and added a full glass of water before bed, her symptoms vanished. The truth is, your evening routine matters more than most people realize. A single cup of tea before bed might seem harmless, but if your body is already low on fluids, if your arteries are stiff, or if you're taking heart medications, it can quietly disrupt your circulation overnight. You may go to sleep feeling calm, but your cardiovascular system could be working harder than ever. And there's an even more dangerous twist. Certain teas don't just dehydrate. They chemically interact with common medications in ways that can double the risk of stroke. That's what I'll show you next. Most people who take their medications carefully every day believe they're doing everything right. They trust their doctors, follow instructions, and avoid obvious risks like alcohol or smoking. But what almost no one realizes is that something as ordinary as a cup of tea can quietly undo the very medications meant to protect their heart and brain. I've seen it happen countless times. Patients who take their pills faithfully yet still end up with blood clots, sudden dizziness, or unexplained strokes. And nearly every time they tell me the same thing. But doctor, it's just tea. The problem is that tea, whether green, black, or even some herbal blends, isn't as neutral as it seems. Many teas contain compounds that can change how your body absorbs or processes medication. Some accelerate the breakdown of drugs in your liver. Others block their effects entirely. And a few, the most deceptive kind, amplify them, creating dangerous swings in blood pressure or clotting. This is especially true for people taking blood thinners or antihypertensive drugs. When you mix those with certain teas, the result can be unpredictable and, in rare cases, deadly. I remember one patient, Mrs. Harriet Collins, a 76-year-old woman who had survived a mild heart attack a few years earlier. She was on a low-dose blood thinner and a medication to keep her blood pressure steady. Every morning, she brewed herself a large pot of green tea. She said it made her feel energized and clean inside. For months, she felt fine, until one morning, she woke up with partial numbness in her left hand and slurred speech. When we scanned her brain, we found evidence of a small clot, what we call a transient ischemic attack, or mini-stroke. Her heart medication levels were stable, her diet hadn't changed, and there was no infection. The cause, as it turned out, was sitting right on her kitchen counter. Green tea, like many herbal blends, contains tannins, natural compounds that bind to certain drugs in your digestive system, reducing their absorption. It also contains catechins, antioxidants that sound beneficial but can enhance the effects of blood thinners like warfarin or aspirin. Together, they can push your blood chemistry off balance, too thin in one moment, too thick in another. That fluctuation alone is enough to increase stroke risk in older adults. When we asked Mrs. Collins to stop drinking her tea for 2 weeks, her blood levels normalized and the dizziness vanished. This isn't an isolated story. Black tea, especially when brewed strong, can constrict blood vessels and raise pressure, counteracting medications meant to relax them. Herbal teas marketed as detox or fat-burning often contain hidden caffeine from guarana or yerba mate, which stimulate the nervous system and raise heart rate. Even licorice root, a common ingredient in calming teas, can interfere with blood pressure medications by causing the body to retain sodium and lose potassium, leading to irregular heart rhythms. Each ingredient seems small, but together they create a volatile mix inside a body that's already working hard to maintain balance. The danger grows at night when many seniors take their medications before bed, then unwind with tea. The timing amplifies the risk. As your body metabolizes the drugs, the compounds in the tea either block or overstimulate the same pathways. Instead of steady protection through the night, the result is instability. Blood that's either too thin, pressure that's either too low or too high, and a brain that's suddenly vulnerable. Many patients describe waking up in the early morning with pounding in their ears, lightheadedness, or strange tingling in their arms, all signs that circulation is being disrupted. What makes this issue so difficult is that most tea labels don't warn about these interactions. You'll never see a line that says, "Do not consume if taking blood thinners." And even your pharmacist might not think to mention it, because tea isn't classified as a drug. But your body doesn't care about labels. It reacts to chemistry, and the chemistry of tea is powerful. In small amounts, those compounds can be healing. In the wrong context, they can magnify or cancel out life-saving medication. One of the most surprising reactions I've seen involves patients who combine tea with low-dose aspirin. On paper, both reduce clot risk, but in the bloodstream, certain tea compounds, particularly catechins, can intensify the blood thinning effect, leading to easy bruising, nosebleeds, or internal bleeding. Others may constrict vessels just enough to create resistance against the medication, forcing the heart to pump harder. Over time, this cycle weakens the vessels in the brain, setting the stage for stroke. If you take heart or blood pressure medication, the safest rule is this: treat your tea like medicine too. Know what's in it when you drink it and how it interacts with your prescriptions. The difference between protection and danger often comes down to timing, dosage, and awareness. And there are safe ways to enjoy tea, ways that keep your brain and heart in harmony rather than conflict. In the next chapter, I'll show you exactly which teas support circulation instead of fighting against it, and how to build a simple morning ritual that protects your brain for the long run. After everything we've uncovered so far, many people ask me the same question. So, does that mean I can never drink tea again? The answer is no. You don't need to give up your morning ritual. You just need to understand how to make it work for your brain instead of against it. The truth is, tea itself isn't the enemy. The problem lies in timing, hydration, and the type of compounds inside your cup. Once you learn how to balance these, you can still enjoy that same warmth and calm without putting your heart or circulation at risk. Let's start with the most important principle: hydration before stimulation. When you wake up, your body is naturally dehydrated. You've spent 6 to 8 hours breathing, sweating, and losing fluid, even if you don't feel thirsty. That's why the first thing you drink in the morning should be water. Not tea, not coffee, not juice. One full glass of water before anything else replenishes your circulation and thins the blood slightly, allowing it to flow freely. Then, about 20 to 30 minutes later, you can safely enjoy your tea. This simple change alone lowers your morning blood pressure spikes and helps your brain wake up gently without sudden vessel constriction. Next, let's talk about the type of tea. The safest choices are caffeine-free herbal blends that support circulation rather than tighten it. Look for ingredients like rooibos, chamomile, ginger, and lemon balm. Rooibos is naturally rich in antioxidants but contains no caffeine or tannins, meaning it won't interfere with your medications or constrict your vessels. Chamomile has a mild calming effect on the nervous system and helps maintain healthy sleep patterns. Ginger supports blood flow by gently relaxing arteries instead of tightening them, while lemon balm reduces stress-related tension, a hidden contributor to blood pressure spikes. You can rotate between these teas to keep your mornings interesting while keeping your body balanced. For those who still enjoy the flavor of black or green tea, moderation is key. Stick to 1 cup a day, preferably after breakfast, never on an empty stomach. Food slows the absorption of stimulants like caffeine and catechins, giving your system time to adjust. Brew your tea lightly, don't steep it until it's bitter. The darker and stronger the tea, the more concentrated the compounds become. And avoid drinking it right before taking your medications, especially blood pressure pills, blood thinners, or diuretics. Wait at least 1 hour before or after. This spacing helps your body process each substance properly without interference. There's another habit I encourage my older patients to adopt: a short circulation reset each morning. After your first glass of water, spend just 3 minutes standing and moving gently. Circle your ankles, roll your shoulders, or stretch your arms above your head. These simple motions activate your blood flow and signal your brain that the day has begun. By the time you sit down for tea, your vessels are already open, your oxygen flow is steady, and your nervous system is calm. Small actions like this protect the brain far more than most realize. And if you love having tea in the evening, you can still enjoy that ritual too. Just choose wisely. Herbal blends like passion flower, lavender, or valerian root promote relaxation without diuretic or stimulating effects. Combine your tea with a small glass of water before bed to offset any mild dehydration. You'll sleep more deeply, your blood pressure will stay steady, and your brain will get the rest it needs. The key idea here is not fear, but awareness. You have control over how your daily habits affect your health. The same cup that once increased your stroke risk can become part of a routine that supports your heart, calms your nerves, and nourishes your mind. I've seen it happen with countless patients, small, consistent changes that completely transform how they feel. One of my favorites, Mrs. King, who once struggled with dizziness and fatigue, now starts her mornings with warm water, a slice of lemon, and a gentle ginger rooibos blend. She calls it her brain tea. Within weeks, her blood pressure stabilized and her energy returned. It wasn't medicine that did it, it was mindful routine. So, you can still enjoy your tea, you just have to choose the right kind at the right time in the right way. The ritual stays, but the risk disappears. And as you keep building these small protective habits, you'll notice other changes too. Clearer thinking, steadier energy, better sleep. But even with all the right choices, your body sometimes whispers warnings before something serious happens. Subtle signs that your brain or circulation might be under strain. Most people ignore them until it's too late. In the next part, we'll talk about those warning signals and how to recognize them before disaster strikes. Most strokes don't start with collapse. They start quietly, with whispers your body sends long before disaster strikes. These warnings are often so subtle that people dismiss them as just getting older or just feeling tired. But as a brain doctor, I can tell you that what feels small today could be your body's way of begging you to pay attention. And the sooner you listen, the more power you have to prevent a tragedy before it ever happens. Think back to Mr. Green, the man from the beginning of this story. The night before his stroke, he'd felt a strange heaviness in his right arm. It lasted only a few minutes, then disappeared. He told his wife it was probably nothing. Maybe he had slept funny. Maybe it was a nerve. The next morning, that same arm went completely limp and his speech slurred. What happened overnight wasn't random. It was a buildup, the final chapter in a story his body had been telling him for weeks. These small, early signs are called transient ischemic attacks, or mini-strokes. They happen when blood flow to part of the brain is briefly interrupted, often for just seconds or minutes. Because the symptoms fade, many people shrug them off. But that temporary blockage is your greatest warning. It means the same vessels that feed your brain are struggling. If left unchecked, that short interruption can become permanent. Here's what to look for. Sudden numbness or weakness in your face, arm, or leg, especially on one side, is one of the most common signs. Even if it lasts only moments, it matters. Brief confusion, trouble speaking, or losing the thread of a sentence midway are also red flags. Some people experience vision changes, a brief blur, double vision, or a dark patch over one eye that clears up after blinking. Others feel dizzy when standing up or notice their balance faltering. These aren't just signs of fatigue. They are the brain's distress signals, warnings that blood flow isn't stable. One of my patients, Mrs. Lewis, used to describe shadows moving across her vision whenever she stood up quickly. She thought it was nothing. A few months later, she had a small clot in one of the arteries behind her eye, a partial blockage that could have easily traveled to her brain. After we adjusted her hydration, medication timing, and tea intake, those visual disturbances disappeared completely. The problem wasn't her eyesight, it was her circulation. Another early sign is a sudden drop in coordination. If you find yourself bumping into door frames, dropping objects, or misjudging distances, it may not just be clumsiness. The brain's motor control depends on precise, even blood flow. When that flow is disrupted, even for a moment, the brain struggles to send clear messages to your muscles. The result can look like unsteadiness or awkward movement, but it's often vascular in origin. Headaches can also play a role, especially new or unusual ones. A pulsing, one-sided headache accompanied by nausea, dizziness, or blurred vision can signal a temporary change in blood pressure inside the brain. Many people reach for painkillers and move on. But if those headaches happen frequently, it's worth checking your circulation and hydration habits. What I tell my patients is simple. Your body is your most sophisticated alarm system. It always warns you. You just have to know the language. If you notice any of these symptoms, even briefly, take them seriously. Write them down. Track when they happen. Patterns often reveal what one isolated episode can't. Does it happen in the morning after your tea, after a hot shower, when you stand up too fast? These clues point to underlying instability in your blood flow. And awareness alone can save lives. Mr. Green's wife now keeps a small journal of his daily habits, what he eats, drinks, and how he feels each morning. Since making small changes to his hydration and replacing his nightly tea with herbal infusions, his circulation has stabilized and those subtle numb spells have never returned. The truth is, most strokes aren't sudden. They're built slowly, day by day, through dehydration, vessel tension, and missed signals. But they're also preventable. Your body gives you warnings. Lightheaded mornings, brief tingling in a hand, a moment of confusion. And those moments are second chances. If you listen, you can act before irreversible damage sets in. So, if you've been ignoring those quiet whispers, the dizziness when you rise, the fleeting numbness, the shadow over your vision, don't. They're not random. They're the echoes of a system under strain asking for help. And that help starts with awareness, hydration, and balance. Because sometimes the difference between a normal morning and a life changing one isn't fate or genetics. It's whether you paid attention to the smallest signal your body sent before it was too late.